Hello. So I posted a reading. It wasn't a reading actually. Well, if it was a reading, it was without cards. I posted a prophecy that I received a couple days ago. Oh, 2 weeks ago. Oh wow. It was 2 weeks ago on June 6th. It's now June 25th. And I think I just received another element of that prophecy, and I just wanted to check in and talk about what I received this time around. So I'm also cooking because I need to multitask. I'm making my famous curry, so don't be jealous. But yeah, and this time I'm tired. This time I'm making enough for my dad because I'm a good child. So this is my favorite knife because it's slick. I wish it would rain. It was raining all week though, so it's good. So anyways, what I wanted to talk about though was this prophecy. So the original prophecy, or the beginning of what I had received, was around people and their periods, and people being in alignment with their period, also in alignment with I don't know if those are two separate messages. They honestly might be. Like there might be something around period power. I also just discovered, or not just discovered, but I read an article a couple days ago, I think, could be weeks, days ago, where they were saying that periods could be the key to stem cell research, which is funny because what they might be saying is that periods could be the key to immortality, which is not shocking because it's funny because period is death energy. It's what happens when your body is dying for a little bit as a person with a period. But basically, what I wanted.
Is this Mom?
No. This is YouTube.
Are you streaming?
Yes.
Oh my god. Sorry.
It's okay. Basically, what I was wanting to say is that there's going to be a huge alignment in people with periods having their period all around the same time, and a major shift occurring in human history in favor of the public. And then I was also saying something around there also being like, it would be like something around Mars in Cancer and a full moon in Cancer. And today I was talking to my friends about their charts and everything. And one of my friends is a Capricorn, and another is a Capricorn moon. And we were talking about, and I mentioned how there's really only 6 signs because they're sister signs. So Cancer and Capricorn are sisters. So then when I was looking back just now at that video, I was like, oh, because the full moon in Capricorn is coming up right now. It's on July 3rd, and it's Cancer season. So not only is it technically a full moon in Cancer because it's a full moon in Cancer season, but it's also technically a full moon in Cancer because Cancer is Capricorn's sister. So then I was like, okay. And then Mars is in Cancer, and Mars will be in Cancer until July 1st, I believe. Though time is wonky, so like, who knows? But that's what they say. This is according to tropical astrology, but I think that this is relevant for tropical astrology because I think that this has something to do with the system. I don't think this is about just the spiritual. I think this is grounded in the real world that we are navigating, and therefore, and tropical astrology tends to dominate, at least in the West. And it feels like this is an important message, maybe geographically specifically for the West. But yeah, so what I was trying to figure out then is I was like, okay, well, if this is coming up, because the full moon in Cancer is coming up then in a couple of days, and Mars in Cancer will be in Cancer for only another couple of days, and it's not going to be right on the dot. What it's going to be is and now I'm seeing another number pattern. What I'm seeing, what it's going to be is talking about full moon prophecy. I'm just trying to keep notes. It's so hard to multitask. But yeah, what I was trying to do is I was trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen? So I decided to take a shower because I really enjoy being in the shower, maybe just being in water. And I was asking Spirit. And when I was in the shower, there was a point in time where I could kind of see like my light body. Like I would look down at my feet and it was like I could see a shadow, but it was a shadow of light, not of darkness. And so during that time, I was talking a lot about the soul body, like the souls finding their body again, coming back into their body again, and reemerging, not reemerging, but merging with the incarnating body, the incarnating person, really coming down here onto Earth and being present in a way that hasn't been for a long time. But when I was saying as in like this is happening again, it felt like I was being directed away from that. So I'm not sure that this has ever happened before. And I think that that's another narrative or like a cyclical phrase that is actually used to trap the public. The idea that history repeats itself, which I've talked about before, and the idea that there are no new things, that nothing new can ever exist, that everything has already been. That is like such a common phrase, but it's also just so incredibly incorrect. And we need to stop accepting that, especially within the spiritual community, because it seems like it's just really accepted within this space, and it shouldn't be. So what I was seeing is I was looking at these, like, those hand loofah gloves. I was looking at those and I could kind of see like the shadow of that, which is interesting because there have been times when I could see the light shadows of objects. Well, I don't know about objects. Sometimes I could just see light shadows in general. But I saw it, and so I started talking to it, and I was just talking to it in my head, and I was just saying that I'm not afraid, and it doesn't need to be afraid. And if it wants to come back, if it wants to say something or tell me something, then like say it. And then I looked down at my feet, and I kind of saw like a little glimpse, but not super seriously. And I had been like staring, kind of trying to affect my gaze or my vision. When you try to keep your eyes open for a very long time, almost so that you can like see something that you saw before, but then you lost it. So I was trying to do that, but then I blinked. And when I blinked, I saw it again. So I haven't had the time to analyze what that means yet. There's something around that. I'm just going to tell you all the clues that I received first. And then I was thinking, I was looking at the shower curtain, and I could see like the echinacea flower. And in this garden that I've been growing, I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe that the echinacea is the one that is the tallest right now. It hasn't flowered yet, so I can't tell. But it feels like it's the echinacea flower that's the one that's flowering at the tallest right now. So then I was like, okay, the echinacea flower seems to be like another symbol for this. And I saw like an openness. and I saw like below that the eyes. So it felt like there's like an opening of maybe like you could say the mind's eye, or like it felt like lotus energy, like a cracking open and an expansion happening around the spiritual and the physical, like some type of merging and connection. And I want to say reconnection, but it's not a reconnection. This is something that hasn't happened before. And I'm not sure how tangible this is going to be, but it does feel like it's relevant again to the 3D, in the sense that it's relevant to tropical astrology. It's relevant to Western perspectives. It feels like there's like something opening up there. And I'm not, I mean, it could be just people beginning to understand themselves a little bit more, or people beginning to feel a little bit more of themselves, because the song that kept replaying in my mind was Bitter by Summer Walker. Bitter, mad at me, mad at the fact he ain't with you, mad at the fact that it's me, but this shit bigger than me and you alone. So why are you putting on for the shade room and Insta? Just be looking for attention. And it almost feels like perhaps there's going to be like a meeting of the light body with the dark body, or like a light body with the shadow, or like a reckoning around the light body that requires it to acknowledge that it is also the form of a shadow, and therefore that the shadow came first. It's like if we were putting an end to that conversation around like, is it the chicken or is it the egg? And we realized that it was one of them. And so like that was something that now had to be settled as a truth, and something that would have to be grounded into like all of our consciousness as like true, as real. The way there are certain things that we just all believe in. Like everybody kind of believes in that phrase, like what goes around comes around. And there are certain things that people just kind of believe in as a whole. And I might not be able to think of them right now, but it's because they're so ingrained that it's not even something to question. And I've got the type of mind that asks a lot of questions. So when I'm thinking of like something that's just super real to me, it's not easy to conjure that up, because I'm more so engaged in the illusion, in the elusive. But yeah, what was I saying? It feels like there's perhaps going to be a reckoning where the shadow is going to kind of get her time to be like, yeah, so now you want to acknowledge that you are a shadow too. Now light wants to acknowledge that she is a shadow too. And if light wants to acknowledge that she's a shadow too, then there's also going to need to be like grievances paid for what shadow energy had to take on, being characterized as this thing that was so like evil. And same with darkness. Then we're also affirming that darkness comes first, that light comes from darkness. And the thing is that this is hard, because part of me is like, well, we don't want to assert any type of hierarchy, but it's not a hierarchy. It's just simply lineage. And it is important to know, like, in what order things happened. Time doesn't just exist to like mess with our minds and keep us trapped and blah, blah, blah. Time is a real thing in the physical as well as in the spiritual realm. And I'm not saying that the physical isn't spiritual, but because the spiritual realm is like, spiritual is the word that we use to talk about the spiritual realm, I have to say it that way. Or I just need to. It's easier, but physical is also spiritual. But it's important to determine a lineage. And the lineage that's being determined right now is the understanding that darkness comes first, that the shadow comes first. And out of the shadow, all is born, which means that the shadow is nothingness and all of these things. That shadow is the first, that darkness is the first. Accepting that as the ancestry, and as like that being historical records, that's the order of things, that's the order of birth. That's important because that changes the conversation, in terms of understanding like who do we go to learn from, or like what is the first past life, or like I guess it just changes what kind of questions we ask and the way that we see darkness. And I think for a lot of people, this could result in like mass confusion, or like it could result in mass confusion. It could result in a lot of resentment. It could result in a lot of bitterness and kind of anger. But it's the type of bitterness and anger that's cyclical because you recognize that you are now this. It's almost like allowing your light to really be a shadow, and in the ways that the shadow is allowed to be kind of dark and grim. It's complicating light to understand that light isn't just love and light. You know what I mean? Because like that song by Summer Walker, Bitter, she's saying this to like the other mothers of the father of her child, saying to the other mothers of who like also had a child with that father, the baby mamas. But this album is so good because she ends up in the same situation. And so you could see it as her talking to them, but you could also see it as her talking to herself. You could see it as her channeling the next woman talking to her. Like it could be all of these things. But again, it's understanding that like you are the cycle, you are the experience, right? So even as light is fighting darkness, we always pitch it as that light against dark, light against dark. But light is darkness. You're fighting yourself. And so there's kind of like this call out. And I think that people are going to feel like there might be like a triggering that happens around this full moon in Capricorn, or just like around that time. And the triggering I don't think it's bad. Like, I think it's a really honest self-reflection. I think it's a really honest questioning, and look at yourself. And I think it's actually light talking to itself, but light's shadow. And light's shadow is light's body. And that's why we're seeing the light body. Light's shadow is light's body. So this is light's body being like, okay, so now you want to come back. It's like the soul's body being like, okay, you guys created this whole system to get away from having a physical existence because the physical is bad, and the physical is dense, and density is bad, and the physical is low vibration, and low vibration is bad. So you guys do all these things to create this hierarchy, this ladder to get away from your body. And now you're at this level where you've completed a cycle, and now you're coming back around and you realize, oh shoot, I'm missing something. What am I missing? An integral part of me. I'm missing my beginning. I'm missing my body. And so the light body is like, okay, well, girl, if you want to come back, then we need to have a real reckoning. We need to have a real conversation about like who you are and why this mindset, why this system ended up being created this way, why we started to gain this perspective around the physical, around this body. Like, what was the bitterness? What was the anger? What do you resent about me? What do you resent about yourself that you wish could not be? But now you need back. It's like, what is it that you wanted, that you want now, that you didn't want before, that you're coming to me and you're saying, I want this now? Like, you have to tell me what you want. You have to tell me who you are. Because it's like the light body's like, I'm not just going to let anybody come in here and live within me. You chose to leave. You chose to create these systems, these foundations, and build an entire world upon it, an entire system upon it. If you want to now come back home, you need to tell me where home is. You need to tell me what home is. And you can't say you don't remember. You need to try to remember. You need to work to remember. And it's kind of this energy of it's like forcing an awakening, and forcing like an attunement of the mind's eye, because in order to be able to truly express what the light body is, which is the light shadow, in order to truly explain what that is and put that into words and understand the value and the meaning and why light wants to come back, why the soul wants to come back, you need to channel that, because you're going into the past. You're going into an energy that has been long forgotten and dismissed. So there's something around that. We'd rather die. That's why I know you. Bitter. Mad at me, mad at the fact he ain't with you. Mad at the fact that it's me. This shit's to leave you alone. So why you putting on for the shade room and Insta? Just be looking for attention. Our baby mama's on a problem. Okay, but you know what it is? This is absolutely dealing with the feminine energy. This is feminine energy because it's earth and it's water, Capricorn and Cancer. So it's earth and it's water and it's happening in Cancer season. And it's the mother, and we were talking about the periods, the alignments. This is feminine energy. This is a reckoning within the feminine. This does not mean it's only affecting women. It doesn't have anything to do with gender. It just has everything to do with energy. And whatever, you can use whatever word you want to use to describe the feminine. It doesn't matter. The point, though, is that this is a reckoning within the feminine. And this is the feminine talking to itself. And this is because, we've written, the craziest thing is the delusion, the level of delusion. And it's funny because in order to create an existence like this, you have to go both so far within yourself and so far without yourself, so far outside of yourself. And it's such a jarring experience to have to do that, but we've done it. Like this idea that, that is like kind of widely accepted in certain religious institutions and all of these things, that it's, the man that comes first, and it's the masculine that leads, and it's the masculine that is grounding. All of these ideas are ridiculous because ultimately what we answer to and what we will always answer to is the feminine. This idea that, and I'm right now, what I'm speaking about has to do with early Christianity, and the thinkers who were arguing that, in terms of the soul, there's the rational soul, and the rational soul is the masculine, and then there's the feminine part of the soul, which is more to do with the earthly pleasures and blah, 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 and you have to come back to the masculine, the blah, 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 blah. All that is bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's actually a narrative that the feminine created. Why? Because there is self-hate. There is self-hate. And oh my gosh, this is crazy because last April, I was taking a bunch of different notes. And one of them I spoke about was talking about spirit at the highest level, which is darkness, which is nothingness. And talking about how at that level, darkness is just consistently always running away from herself. And this is why we are in the state that we are in, because she's always trying to not be herself. She always wants there to be something else. She always wants someone else to be in the picture. She always wants to be surrounded by light. She always wants to blah, 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 always wants to create, always wants to expand. Can never just be alone, can never just be darkness, can never just be nothingness. And this desire to escape herself is what's created all these worlds. And so in many ways, it's like beautiful, but in other ways, it's miserable, because not loving yourself will never be sustainable. And there is going to have to be another way, a way to create and to enjoy your own company. And it's just like the same balance that all mothers have to learn, of understanding that as much as you love your child, you deserve to still be yourself. And this idea that like once you have a child, you no longer have a life is also a phrase that we have to stop saying and perpetuating, a practice that we have to stop perpetuating. And it means that we all have to chip in to help ease the load on motherhood, because it takes a village, and that's a phrase for a reason. But there is something to be said for that, like exploring that. And I feel like that's what's also coming back into the picture. But there's just this energy around the feminine needing to have a reckoning, needing to have a conversation with self. The light needing to have a conversation with the light body, the soul needing to have a conversation with the soul body, with the shadow, all of these things. And just there needs to be an acceptance that the shadow came first, that darkness came first, and understanding that there's nothing wrong with an order of lineage. There's nothing wrong with saying this was born first, then this came. There is a process. Like, order can be chaotic, but there does need to be order. It can't just be that maybe this was the beginning, or maybe this was the beginning, or maybe this was the beginning. No, we need to have an origin. We need to have an origin, and we need to accept that we already know what the origin is, and begin to respect that origin and answer to it. And yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything you want to add? Yeah.
About what?
We need what the message is. Well, actually, no, I won't tell you. Just, do you have any thoughts to add?
Do you have any thoughts to add just in general? Anything that's just on my mind?
Yeah.
Just remember that it feels good to be grounded.
It feels
That's really hard to remember right now.
It feels good to be grounded.
It feels good to be like in life, no assistance,
Yeah.
dealing with it all in
Yeah.
the raw.
In the real.
Because even though the feelings are heavy, you are empowered by control and full awareness. And that it sucks when you've been out of control and a little bit unaware for too long. It sucks.
Period. And that's all y'all need to know. Enjoy your full moon.
Oh, it's a full moon today?
No, but it's coming up.